Hey everyone, welcome back to Knowledge Panel. Today we're diving deep into one of the most enduring mysteries of all time, the 10 Plagues of Egypt. This biblical tale found in the book of Exodus tells the story of Moses and the Israelites' dramatic exodus from Egypt. It's a story of hardship, liberation, and of course those 10 unforgettable plagues. Now, while these events have traditionally been interpreted through a religious lens, we're going to put on our scientific thinking caps and explore how natural phenomena could potentially explain these ancient calamities. Get ready for a fascinating journey as we explore the intersection of history, faith, and science. Let's start with the first plague, the Nile River turning blood red. Imagine that, the lifeblood of Egypt transformed into something seemingly cursed. Science offers some intriguing explanations. One possibility is the rapid growth of red algae, known as an algal bloom. These organisms can stain the water red and produce toxins. Some species can kill fish and make the water unsafe to drink. Now let's hop on over to the second plague, the sudden surge in the frog population. Picture this, frogs everywhere, overwhelming the streets, homes, even your bed. Not exactly a pleasant experience. So how could this be linked to the first plague? Well, remember those algal blooms we talked about? As they die off, they deplete oxygen in the water, essentially suffocating fish and forcing amphibians like frogs to seek refuge on land. It's a classic example of an ecosystem out of balance. Additionally, environmental changes like increased rainfall or flooding could have disrupted the frogs' natural habitats, pushing them into populated areas in a desperate search for suitable conditions. Now brace yourselves because things are about to get itchy. The third plague brought an infestation of lice or gnats, tiny, biting insects that would have made life utterly miserable. But here's the thing, these little critters thrive in environments rich in decaying organic matter, and guess what? The first two plagues provided a feast for these pests. The massive die-off of fish and frogs would have created a breeding ground for lice and gnats, allowing their populations to explode. Add in the likely unsanitary conditions and lack of proper waste disposal, and you've got a recipe for an epic insect invasion. Chapter 4. Swarms of Flies. If you thought it couldn't get any worse than lice and gnats, the fourth plague unleashes swarms of flies onto the scene. Just imagine the buzzing, the filth, the sheer annoyance. And the culprit? Likely the same environmental factors that fueled the previous plague. The decaying carcasses of fish, frogs, and who knows what else would have been a smorgasbord for flies, attracting them in droves. These insects reproduce rapidly, especially in warm climates, so it wouldn't have taken long for their numbers to reach biblical proportions. Remember, no garbage collection in ancient Egypt. Chapter 5. Livestock in Peril. The fifth plague takes a turn for the worse, targeting livestock with a devastating disease. Imagine the heartbreak of watching your animals, your livelihood, succumb to a mysterious illness. While the Bible doesn't specify the disease, we can turn to science for possible explanations. One strong contender is anthrax, a bacterial infection that can spread rapidly among livestock, especially in unsanitary conditions. Remember those swarms of insects? They could have acted as vectors, spreading the disease from animal to animal. Another possibility is a viral outbreak, exacerbated by the already stressed and weakened state of the animals due to the previous plagues. Chapter 6. A Plague of Boils. The sixth plague brings painful boils to the Egyptians. Imagine the agony and despair of this affliction. Remember that anthrax we talked about? It can infect humans, causing nasty skin lesions. The same bacteria that ravaged livestock could have infected people. Chapter 7. The seventh plague unleashes the raw power of nature, a destructive hailstorm. Picture this, giant hailstones bombarding the land, shredding crops and smashing through homes. Now while this might seem like a supernatural event, hailstorms are actually not uncommon in Egypt, particularly during certain seasons. A particularly severe thunderstorm, perhaps fueled by unusual weather patterns, could have produced hailstones of extraordinary size and force. And to make matters worse, these storms are often accompanied by strong winds and lightning, adding to the destructive potential. Chapter 8. The eighth plague unleashes a biblical nightmare, a massive swarm of locusts. Imagine looking up to see the sky darkened by millions upon millions of these hungry insects, descending upon the land and devouring everything in their path. Now, while this might seem like a scene straight out of a horror movie, locust swarms are a very real and devastating natural phenomenon. They're often triggered by prolonged periods of drought followed by heavy rains, conditions that create ideal breeding grounds for locusts, and once their numbers reach a critical mass, they take to the skies in search of food, stripping fields bare in a matter of hours. Chapter 9. The ninth plague plunges Egypt into an eerie darkness for 3 long days. Imagine the fear, the disorientation, the sense of helplessness as the sun disappears. One possibility is a severe sandstorm known as a khamsin, which can block out the sun. Chapter 10. And now we reach the 10th and most tragic plague, the death of the firstborn sons. Imagine the unimaginable grief, the sense of loss and injustice. While this plague is often attributed to supernatural causes, there are a few scientific theories that attempt to explain this devastating event. One compelling theory points to a deadly mold that can grow on grain, especially when stored in damp conditions. This mold produces mycotoxins, which are highly poisonous. Now, since firstborn sons often received larger portions of food, they would have ingested a higher dose of these toxins, potentially leading to their deaths. So, there you have it, folks. A scientific perspective on the 10 plagues of Egypt. These scientific explanations offer alternative ways of understanding these events. Whether through faith or science, the story continues to captivate and inspire awe. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe to Knowledge Panel for more content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode.